and welcome to The Poll, the show where we talk about the comics that came out this week. I am joined, of course, by Joel, and you can find him on the Twitters over at Caped Joel for all of his joliness. Is that accurate?
True. It's very accurate. Some might even say it's painfully accurate.
Right? Such joliness. It's all there. And if you want to find me, I'm over at The Real Zoobs on Twitter, making random tweets like terrible birthday cards. You can check that out over there at some point. Yeah, that was the thing I saw. But you know what? Forget all that. It's Thursday. Comics just came out yesterday. Let's talk about some of the comics that came out this week. Not necessarily a super light week. Certainly not like a fourth week kind of week, or fifth week, I should say, really.
Very much in the middle.
Yeah, very much in the middle this week, I gotta tell you. With the big two coming out with some of their larger books simultaneously, it's been a little bit more difficult, heavier one week and a little bit lighter the next week. I know they're not really considering each other's schedules, but boy, I wish they would.
Not.
I really wish they would. It'd be so great if we had, The Forge come out this week, but Secret Empire come out last week. That would be super good.
It's getting a little heavy and it's getting a little hard to keep track. I'm like, wait, who's an evil brainwashed fascist now, and who's trying to take over the multiverse, and who are we in a flashback? Is this current? What's happening
Exactly.
Who's whose sister?
That is true. But you know what? We still have comics to talk about this week, and I'm excited to talk about them. And I'm gonna actually kick it off this week. I don't normally kick it off, but screw it, I'm doing it. We're talking about Doctor Strange number 22, continuing the tie-in element to Secret Empire. Yeah. Again, for me, tie-ins, I could give or take them. And
some are good, some are bad.
Some are good, some are bad. I don't think it's fair to start a new writer in with a tie-in. That's where I'm at right now. If you read Jason Aaron's run, you are now in the middle of, okay, Dennis Hopeless has to deal with tie-in land. Great.
Him just being one of many new writers who have been dropped smack dab in tie-ins. I feel bad for Jim Zub and the Uncanny Avengers for the same reason.
Right. And right now, I gotta tell you, I am not feeling what Hopeless is doing. I'm not gonna totally blame it on him because it's a tie-in, so I gotta keep going till we get out of tie-in land and see what he's gonna do. I'm not a fan.
Is Strange even the main character anymore? I know you were complaining it felt like Daredevil and the Defenders were actually taking center stage over him.
Yeah, for half of this book he was, but for the first half it focused a lot on Kingpin, it focused a lot on Mordo. Captain America was in this book. The way Hopeless is writing some of these characters, it feels like in a way he's creating character traits for them that I am not used to seeing, and also that basically I feel like make Doctor Strange seems smarter and more uptight than he really is.
Right.
And for me, I'm like, there are better ways to do that than that. You know what I mean?
He was more Dr. Orpheus than Doctor Strange this issue.
Kind of. He's a little more elitist. He's kind of lost the edge, the sarcasm, the heavy sarcasm that Aaron, had put into him. But I don't know. I don't know if it has to just do with the fact that they had to, make this work with what's going on in Secret Empire, and when we come out on the other side of this, Hopeless will be like, okay, now I'm going to tell my stories, and I'm going to develop, Strange more so. I don't know.
It's funny, too, that his book seems to be holding up the bulk of the and this is what's happening to all the street-level heroes in Manhattan.
Kind of. I mean, they really do, a hand-wavy, oh, yeah, Luke Cage and all them, they're beating whatever. Mordo's got Daredevil in a bubble. Kingpin's don't worry, I invested money into dark magic because you can just buy that, stocks and bonds. By the way, that's
a great investment.
That's what I'm going to do.
Heavy gains.
Right. I'm gonna give up entirely on any sort of long-term investments. It's just going into dark magic. It's going to pay off at the end of everything. It's trust me. Yeah.
Instead of Jim Cramer's Mad Money, it'll be Tiffany's Dark Magic. Okay, so right. Dark Magic stocks are up right now, so you want to buy.
That's right. You're going to want to buy Boyles, man. Buy Boyles.
Curses, voodoo dolls are in this season.
Yeah, you're gonna that's it. That said, he basically offers Strange access to that. He's just I'll give you that, and then you could take care of all of this.
Right on.
So they do. They head on over there. Before we go, I want to say thank you to Mr. Giggles for Super Chat.
You're the first super chat of this new
The
generation.
very first super chat that the poll has ever had. That is your, like, total title there. You are now Mr. Giggles, the first super chat of the poll.
I don't know what a shark coffee is, but all right.
Well, I love it. I love everything about that.
Is that a coffee made of shark, or is it like you're drinking it out of a shark?
I assume it's super dangerous and deadly. It's the ultimate caffeine machine.
You ever stare into a cup of coffee's eyes? Black like a doll's eye.
Exactly. That's, oh my god, that is a perfect selling point for that coffee. Or how you like your coffee. How do you like your coffee? Black like a doll's eyes, or... I love it. Thank you so much, Mr. Giggles. That is awesome. But anyway, so with Doctor Strange, they do go to Madame Mim, and they're gonna open up this vault, and like Mordo sends some mindless ones that he's essentially like hacked, like magically hacked. So like they're like more like the robot race from Saga, so you can like kind of use them as like cameras to see things and whatever. And when they finally do get into the vault, basically Strange was like, "Whoa, nobody touch anything." It's just filled with weapons, but of course, Hopeless is keeping up what Aaron set down, that with every bit of magic there comes a price, but all the magic in here is so dark that the price is too great. And so Strange is trying to figure out what he's going to use, like what he wants to, you know, what can he give up? What can he use and not totally ruin himself? And that's when Kingpin's essentially like, nah, forget it. And he picks up a magical artifact and he uses it. And we're like, okay, what? And then he's got glowy eyes, and that's kind of it. Like, that's where we leave off in this issue. So it's like Hopeless is stalling for this event to be over.
Yeah, it's not great. If that thing with magic, if that ticks you off, I can only imagine how you would feel about Uncanny Avengers, which also took place under the dome, and Brother Voodoo is one of their team members, who Brother Voodoo has not been playing by any of the new rules of magic set down in Doctor Strange. He's just been doing whatever he wanted, but he got possessed by like a dark force demon, and I wondered, I'm like, oh, does that mean that like Doctor Strange could get possessed too? What's the deal with that?
Right? Look, again, I'm giving Hopeless till he gets out of this. I'm going to give him his first true arc. You know what I mean? Like, the story he wants to tell. But there are some moments in this book that I'm just like, like, I'm sure there are some people who really dug this. I did not. But there is, like, okay, so Mim essentially is trying to fight off the mindless ones, and she does this thing with her staff where she slams it down and she yells, "You shall not pass." Hang on, right? Cute, clever, right? Then we cut to our four characters: Doctor Strange, Kingpin, Spider-Woman, and Ben Urich, right? And Kingpin in the middle of them goes, "Holy hell, she went full Gandalf." There's no way Kingpin would ever say that, right?
Yeah, Wilson Fisk doesn't, strike me as a high fantasy sort of guy. He strikes me as a crime fiction sort of person.
All right, hang on. Let's take it a step further, because right next to him, Spider-Woman goes, "Did the Kingpin just make a Star Wars reference?"
Wow.
To which Ben Urich goes, "Shh, no."
Okay, Spider-Woman wouldn't do that, and Ben Urich is also not a no kind of person.
I know. So for me, that really, like, came out of left field. I was like, what is happening? Like, Baron Mordo has been more talky and, like, ridiculous. I mean, he's ridiculous always, right? But, like, more to the comical side of it than, ever before. Even Captain America was more comical in this than he is right now at all.
Really?
Like, yeah, like, at one point he says something about how, like, he's talking to Baron Mordo. He's like, "I really hate that guy." And I'm like, it's just really weird. It's just, I don't know. And I don't know if that's just
flies in the face of Captain America this week, too, in his own book.
Right? Like, and I don't know if that just has to do with just Hopeless kind of rebelling against being forced into a tie-in out of the gate, or what. But like I said, I'm gonna give it another shot, guys. I don't know if I can say this is a great place to jump on for what's going on in Doctor Strange. The Aaron run has just ended. We now have these 2 tie-in issues. I feel like if you're looking to get into Strange and you hadn't picked up the Aaron, this is not the time to jump in, but it will be, I think, soon if you want to try Hopeless's Strange. But I don't think this is a fair shot at it.
It just hits me, too. Did Hopeless write Spider-Woman before it got canceled?
I think he must have. Did.
That explains why she's tagging along on this adventure now, I think.
Yeah, that's a good call. I didn't really think about that.
I want to bring my friend Jess along, too. Yeah, I'll worry about Steve in a second, but
Exactly. Exactly. And honestly, there was a moment where I was like, I'm kind of glad Wog's not here to see this.
Nice.
So there you go, guys. Doctor Strange, number 22. I'm telling you, I don't think this is a great place to jump in. But you know, as this proceeds, I'll keep letting you guys know what I think about it, and you know, we'll see where it goes. But why don't we stay in the realm of Marvel and move over to another former, or actually, it's not former. Is Aaron still writing Mighty Thor, or is he not?
Yes, he is.
He is.
Yep, he's
All
still
right.
on that.
Another Aaron property, Mighty Thor, number 20. Joel, what's happening now with him? And actually, before we do that, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I do have to give a super shout out to another super chat, Joseph Wyatt. I'm gonna read what you wrote, man. Doctor Strange is never late. He arrives precisely when he means to. Love the show. You guys are great. I love that comment. That is spectacular.
I get that reference.
Oh my god. I love it. Thank you so much for the super chat. It's really cool of you and the amazing comment. But now on to Mighty Thor, number 20. What's Thor been up to since
as the chat is saying here so vehemently, War Thor. Yes, there's a lot of War Thor in here. And I know when Aaron was teasing the idea of the Ultimate Hammer and who is this new War Thor, everyone's like, oh god, are we going to have another big, long, drawn-out mystery like we did with who is the new Jane Foster Thor? Where did Odinson go? No, he explains it all in one issue.
Oh.
Yes.
What? Okay.
I know, right? I was not expecting, like, okay, this is going to be a whole big arc and we're going to figure out who the War Thor is. Nope, right away. Right at the end of issue 1, you know who the deal is. And the whole thing is couched very much in this whole War of the Realms thing that has been going on. The Kingdom of the Dwarves has taken in the elves who have been ravaged by Malekith, and now their society is on the verge of crumbling because they've, you know, honored the ancient treaties, but they can't feed all these refugees because the elves grew the food and sold it to the dwarves who gave them tools and ore, and now the whole thing's breaking down.
Okay, this literally sounds like these guys are just playing Settlers of Catan. Like, all right, I got all this wheat, but I need some bricks. How many sheep for bricks?
That's exactly what they're doing. And we see the new, the new advocate for Midgard, who is Agent Ross Solomon. Jane Foster stepped down at the end of the previous arc, and she stepped in, you know, to advocate for Earth and, you know, for people like us, for the squishy humans. She comes to the Dwarven Kingdom at the worst possible time because the fire giants are attacking now, and they're, like, actually suicide bomb attacking. There's these, like, horrible fire bug creatures with bomb maggots inside of them that go off. It's really horrifying.
They're suicide lava monsters?
Yes.
Okay.
They're really cool designs, actually. They're all gross and horrifying.
Okay.
And it's this horrible attack on the dwarves, and one of the guys who gets caught in the crossfire is Volstagg the Voluminous, the big, happy, fat guy of the Warriors 3. You know, the most likable, down-to-earth one. He's just like, oh, when's it lunch and everything. He takes a level in Hero because there's all these elf children who have gotten, like, separated from their parents, and he picks them all up and, you know, runs with them to try and get them to safety. And then he gets cornered by one of the bug monsters that blows themselves up in front of him, knowing full well that as a god, he won't die, but the children will die. And they do. And this just shreds Volstagg. He goes into this deep, dark depression. He stops eating, so he loses a bunch of weight. And then it's in his horrible depression, he hears the call of the Ultimate Hammer to pick it up and says, you know, the old Thors have failed. We need a new hero. We need a War Thor. And that's going to be you. Yeah.
What?
I know, right?
I didn't see that coming at all. Even as you were telling me, I didn't see that coming.
In fact, here's the thing. They did a great job of tricking you because, like, the promotional images they showed of the War Thor, he has, like, a big gray beard, which led everyone to believe, oh, well, maybe it'll be Odin. Maybe it'll be something like that.
Right.
No, on the cover, his beard is red like Volstagg's.
That's... Huh.
Crazy, right? So we have a new Ultimate Thor, and it's Volstagg.
All right, that's kind of cool. I do kind of enjoy that because Volstagg, at least has had the experiences working with Thor. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of neat, and he has never had essentially the place of power that either Thor or Odin have had.
Totally. He's been the goofy one. He's been the comedy relief this whole time. So to give him this dark PTSD horrors of war type story and to turn him into a Thor is really interesting and really out of left field. And that's just one end of the story. The other end is Jane and Odinson kind of coming and talking now because at the end of the previous issue, Odinson figured out, hey, you're Thor and you never told me. That really hurts my feelings. And she's like, look, man, I never meant to hurt you. You said some things. I said some things. I never thought you were coming back. I thought I could die. In fact, I might die at any minute. And because she's lost her job as like counselor and ambassador for Earth, she now has to make a really difficult choice. And that is, look, next time I use the hammer, next time I use Mjolnir, I might not put it down ever again because I'm stage 4 in my cancer. My choice is either die as Jane Foster or live forever as the Thunder Goddess.
Yeah.
And at least when I was being an ambassador for Earth, I had a reason to get up in the morning. I had a job. The world needed Jane. The world doesn't need Jane anymore.
Oh, that's kind of sad, though.
It's super depressing, and it's like, oh, wow, I hope she figures that out. And they kind of leave that scene because then the whole attack happens and everything, and they don't get to finish their conversation. But I kind of like this there repairing the relationship. And Thor, such a wonderful meathead that he has the best line where it's like, is this your way of punishing me, Jane, for my previous dalliances to not tell me that you were Thor and that the hammer speaks to you in ways that it never spoke to me?
Wow.
Yeah, they need some Dr. Phil in their life.
Yeah, a little bit.
They need relationship counseling. They need to sit down and work this out.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so now, all right, the mystery of the War Thor has been revealed.
In a single issue.
All right, I gotta know, how do you feel about it?
Again, I think it's a really cool idea. It's really unexpected. And again, of all the Warriors 3, I definitely probably, saw the most of myself in Volstagg. Because like, hey, fun time. Let's eat, let's party, let's do whatever. And I'm like, you're a fun guy. Oh, one horrible day turns him into a militant is the thing. And you got to wonder, how is he going to rub up against the other two Thors? Is he going to be like, hey, let's work together? Or is it going to be like, no, you guys failed in your job. I'm going to actually handle this myself. I'm going to be proactive.
This is where, like, Odinson's going to be like, really? Everyone else has got a hammer now except for me? Okay, well, fine.
That's going to be funny. That's going to be really funny.
Yeah, no, that's totally cool and awesome. I'll just make my own hammer with blackjack and hookers.
It beats my theory. I really wanted it to be Eric Masterson. I really wanted it to be Thunderstrike coming back. But no, it wasn't Thunderstrike. I thought that would be too hilarious.
I still wanted it to be the Punisher, Frank Castle.
Oh, that would still be great. It's basically they turned Volstagg into the Punisher,
right?
More or less. They gave him a horrible tragedy, then gave him a new name.
Exactly. So, all right. Is this the issue people should grab if they want to now get into Mighty Thor? If they haven't been reading Mighty Thor, but all of a sudden I'm like, hey, I heard about this cool thing going on. Do I start here?
They do a pretty good job catching you up on everything that's been happening with this big War of the Realms with Jane and Odinson. I feel comfortable saying you could probably pick this one up.
All right. Now, I know come November, we're going to have a Thor movie.
Yes.
Does this feel like to you that this is going to end up not writing itself, but like, are things going to be changing significantly before that movie, do you think?
You know, I really thought they were, honestly. I thought that's the way they'd be going with it. But as it stands right now, nah, I don't feel that way. Then again, with Jane and with the cancer and everything, they've basically written themselves the ultimate ticking clock device. But they're like, look, I could be dead tomorrow.
All right. So
I hope it doesn't end like that. I hope she gets a cooler send-off, and I'm sure she will.
Right. It's just funny because usually Marvel tries to put things into, like, nice little boxes right before their movies come out. Like, look at Guardians, the number of Guardian books that were coming out around or coming out after the movie. But this doesn't feel like it could comfortably get to a place in that amount of time. Not with an introduction of a new character.
It's funny, too, because it's like, even if they do end it by November and for the new Thor movie, we're still going to have all those generation crossovers and everything with the Thors regardless, so she probably won't be gone.
Right.
The chat just had a funny one there. Thor, you're promoted to new Odin. Jane, you're promoted to new Thor. And Volstagg, I guess you're promoted to new Jane. We always need a Jane.
Yep, exactly. All right, so I guess we'll be keeping an eye on Thor. I really am honestly interested to see what they're gonna do with the movie coming out. Like that kind of always interests me because, again, Marvel is notorious for doing that, for bringing the status quo back just at the right time for a movie to come out. Woo! Much like we do have a new Spider-Man book that's launched, which we'll be talking about at some point throughout this show. Just before a new Spider-Man movie is coming out. Lighter,
Funny how
funner,
that happens.
right? Interesting. All right. So, do you recommend it? Just before we go, yes, no.
Yes, most definitely. Especially if you've been keeping up with it, I think you'll be pleased. And if you just want to hop on in and see what's happening with the War Thor, I think you get a good story with a beginning, middle, and end. Funny thing too about Jane Foster Thor, I don't think I got to bring this up on the show, so I would just like to briefly talk about it. When she is Thor, we've never seen her without the helmet on, and obviously that was a creation and an idea because it was a mystery of who she was. She needed to protect her identity. She's never taken it off in the main Jason Aaron book. But in Mark Waid's Avengers, they did a story a couple weeks ago where she got her helmet knocked off, and we see her face, and I'm like, is that just Jane but with blonde hair? None of the other heroes see her. The only one who sees her is Nadia, and Nadia never knew Jane Foster.
Right.
I just thought that was way too funny, where it's like, dude, Mark Waid, don't let Jason Aaron know that you took her helmet off. He might be mad.
Shh, don't tell him. Don't tell him. He'll leave.
Did I say you could take her helmet off? I'm building to a big reveal. That's going to be the big crescendo of all of this when she finally takes the helmet off.
I gotta tell you, to me, it is incredibly interesting, just in general, to have an entire character like this surrounded by such a fatal and debilitating real disease.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've seen it before in comics, but it's just always interesting to see that. Especially with a fairly well-known character like Thor, essentially.
It's one of those, the candle that burns twice as bright burns half as long, one of those things.
Exactly. All right, so that was Mighty Thor number 20. Now let's move on to Superman number 25, closing out this arc, Fade to Black, Black Dawn.
Painted black.
Yeah, exactly. Always bet on black.
The Black Parade. There's so many great ones.
Whatever you want to call it. Manchester Black. We're taking care of that story arc. I gotta tell you, even before we go into talking about just what happens in the issue, at the end of the day, this issue to me felt like it was... Maybe it ended a little quickly. Like, it was like, oh, okay, and we're done.
There was a lot of wrap-up happening, which is funny because a lot of the DC 25s this week were extra length.
Yeah, but this, it was just all of a sudden like, oh, we're done. But I don't necessarily think that's bad because I just felt like this was just a really strong, well-written, kind of run-of-the-mill Superman story. And I mean that in the best way, where we're just like, we're not trying to tread, anything crazy, or we're not, like, reinventing the wheel. Like, hey, just enjoy an awesome, cool Superman story that ends making you feel really great.
It was a very strong workman-like story is what I would call it.
And if nothing else, the number one thing that we got out of this was, does Lois have a leg? Doesn't she have a leg?
Yes, leg watch. She does. I'm glad we finally got leg watch sorted. I read that this morning while I was sitting around. I'm like, ooh, leg watch 27. Oh.
Yep.
Oh, it turns out she never lost it. That was an illusion to mess with John's head, which in turn messed with us as the readers' heads.
Exactly. And I thought it was really funny. Like, did they actually go to the hospital? They very specifically covered her up when she was in the hospital. Yeah, you got us, all right? You got us.
Good on you, Peter Tomasi.
I'm over there thinking, like, how are you going to explain that from this book to action? Oh, never mind. You did. You totally did, and you totally pulled it off. Well, I'll just shut up now and go over there.
Thus concludes Leg Watch 2017.
Exactly. Yay, that was fun. Okay, so in this, this is just a knockdown, drag-out fight.
Between everybody.
Everybody's fighting. Batman's fighting, Damian's fighting, Manchester Black, all of the alien friends, of course...
Frankenstein and his wife.
Exactly. His ex-bride. She made sure to...
They're not together. It's like, look, I am not with him. I just want to state that right now.
Exactly.
I am on the market. I am a single, independent monster woman.
Yeah. Any of you folks over there interested? This is my number. It's totally cool.
Batman's like, no, sorry, I'm already taken, but that's a whole other thing.
Exactly. She's like, I wasn't talking to you. He's like, oh.
Then who was she talking to?
Exactly. Superman. We do see, of course, Frankenstein basically busted apart, but of course he's totally fine. Damian, at the end of the day, is going to take him home.
Put them back together.
Maybe. I don't know.
That was a great moment too, because Manchester Black just kept like undoing his stitches with his mind, and I'm like, that's a good use of powers.
Right, exactly. Just pull one thread, and the whole thing just falls apart. It just falls apart. Um,
Frankenstein made like a cheap sweater.
exactly. What I thought was really well done in this book, though, was that while we're having this incredible, like, crazy fight going on between all of these characters, at the heart of it is the story of a father and son.
Absolutely, which is pretty much the entire book summed up.
Yeah, no, it really, really is. And I think that Tomasi is potentially at his best when he is writing these two together.
Oh, it's his wheelhouse. He did it for Batman and Robin, and now he's doing it for Superman and John. Arguably better, I would say.
I think so. I think so. I mean, we see for a little bit, Superboy has clearly Black's in his head. Like, he's drank the Kool-Aid. He completely questions his father's abilities. He questions his father's ability to save people, even though everything he's known up until this point is to the contrary.
Yeah. He's been turned to the dark side.
Exactly. And it takes essentially I guess the alien ship emerging due to some fighting that's been going on, and some rips sort of in space time.
Right, which is where the monsters have been coming in. I forgot that for a second. Oh yeah, there was a giant monster threat too on top of this, wasn't there?
Yes, there was, but we don't see that. We see another Batman and Superman. You know what I mean? Like, I guess what presumably almost looks like Superboy and Kathy.
And also Damian Wayne in his trench coat.
Yeah,
Batman
exactly.
666.
It's funny that trench coat took me forever to figure out that it was a trench coat because it looks like a super high collared Dracula cloak. It's just the way that it's drawn. I was like, I don't remember Batman having a super high collared Dracula cloak. Maybe he did.
That's so Damian. He's such a trench coat kid, isn't he?
Gotta pop the collar as high as possible.
Looking cool. Which, yeah, I mean, I guess that's like, so you pierced the veil of the multiverse and saw what could very well be an alternate future or a possible future.
Right, which I thought was kind of cool, like this possibility of like those of John and Kathy coming together.
They draw a lot of parallels between Superman and Smallville, Jonathan, and Hamilton, to which I'm like, oh, well, if she's your first love there, John, she's really only your Lana, though.
Yeah, go talk to Lana about that one. It's not going to work out.
She'll tell you all about it.
Exactly. And, of course, it takes John seeing that to start coming out of it and start rejecting Manchester. But at the end of the day, it takes his mother.
Yes, which is beautiful.
Which, again, like, while I do think this focuses heavily on father and son, like, it is the power of his human mother who, like, really pulls him back from the brink, you know? And like, it's like, he has this moment of, like, being sorrowful and, like, probably a little ashamed of his actions and his, like, his lack of faith in his father. And then, at the end of the day, it's Kathy and John who defeats Manchester, you know, essentially using, like, a telepathic, like, reversal, feedback, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And it sends his consciousness elsewhere.
They blew up his speakers, which it's funny. That's basically the way every Manchester Black story ever ends. Either he gets lobotomized, or he kills himself, or his brain blows up. That's what you got to do. Yeah,
that's pretty much it. And of course, at the end of the day, the aliens, essentially, they are so apologetic for what happened.
Because they were manipulated. They were all under Black's sway, too.
They were under Black's sway. They felt like they owed him something. There's a whole lot going on there. I actually enjoy the depth of these characters because they're not just totally like, you know, they're bad, they're good, they're whatever. No, they're like everyone else. There's good, there's bad to them. Like, there's reasons they did certain things.
It felt really like a backdoor pilot, too, because all these aliens end up taking a page out of Superman's book, being like, look, we love small-town America. We've built lives here. We have personas. If you'll let us, Superman, we'd like to stay and rebuild Hamilton County.
Yeah, that's absolutely, like, and I thought that was really well done. And, like, even Superman, which I thought was so funny, it's just like, you're gonna have to work on trust. And, like, I don't know if I could trust you and all that, right? And it takes, of course, John being like, having that moment where he's just like, I don't think you're going to trust me. And Superman, I think, being like, I have to show him that we can get beyond this. And being like, I'm gonna, it's cool, guys. We'll make it work. We will absolutely.
Forgiveness is a virtue.
Yeah. And, like, I think that was that's just a strength, I think, of just the writing in general, to put something in subtle like that, to be like, as a parent, you have to be able to show not through, or yeah, to not just explain through your words, but to show through your actions, essentially.
It's also super implied too that all those aliens are also the last surviving members of their races. So
Yeah.
Superman would be a giant hypocrite if he didn't let them stay.
That is absolutely true. Of course, we have a huge carnival where we see that things have gotten back. I didn't realize Hamilton was so large until we see this carnival. I was like, oh wow, that's not a Smallville. That's a wow. Okay.
They rebuilt quick too, didn't they?
That's exactly it. We had this lovely moment between John and Kathy where Superboy seemingly is like, I don't have my powers anymore, and like as he's there with her and like trying to make her feel better about everything that's happened, his powers return and he's able to fly. And it's such a heartwarming moment. You got Crypto and the kids, and there's just blue skies, and they're just having a nice time.
It's pure Americana.
It really is. It's very old school Superman, but like in the most modern, like looking towards the future kind of way. And just so sweet. And then, of course, we have Lois and Clark kissing at the end. Just kind of that remembrance of the two of them in a way. Like when you look on kids, and you're like, oh, that's cute. But we got an epilogue.
Yes. With the chat has dubbed this epilogue Manchester Beef, and I say that is now officially canon. Good job, chat.
I love that name. B, I love this because Manchester Black is just such a pompous jerk.
Even in another form.
Yeah, no, but just overall, like I couldn't think of a more fitting way for him to be. For now,
it's arguably a fate worse than death what he got.
Right, and
for him it is.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not sure what we're talking about, Manchester Black's consciousness seemingly has been put into one of the cows from the dairy farm. Remember the dairy farm? We were all concerned what was going on there. Well, now he's a cow, and
because it's small town America, kids smoke cigarettes and tip cows.
Exactly, and it looks very much like the cigarettes that Manchester was smoking. I think it might have been his. I don't know.
I think they took his like pack and his holder and everything.
Yeah,
like, hey, give me my crap back.
Exactly. They essentially they give the cow a cigarette. They're gonna light it up, and then they kind of break free of the mind control that he still is able to use, and they just tip him right on over. And that's that. I mean, look, Manchester Black will probably be back at some point. Some writer will want to do something with him.
He's too good to waste.
Yeah, but they did a great job of not getting rid of him in a way that he couldn't come back from.
They made that mistake once with Jeff Johns having him kill himself, so they're not going to do that again.
Right. But
you know what this means too?
What?
That means eventually we're going to have to see Damien's pet bat cow versus Manchester Beef at some point.
My God, Joel, I love that. Okay, that's it. That's how we get all of the superhero animals. They have to fight Manchester Beef. They gotta.
Because he defeats all the humans because, like, his psychic powers aren't there yet, so he, like, pacifies all the humans and only the animals can fight him.
Yeah. Yep. I love it. That's it.
Thank you, DC. We'll accept our check in the mail.
Yes. Yeah. We'll write that for you. It's totally fine.
That's totally your next event, Animal War.
Yes. Done. That's it. It's happening. This is happening now. I don't know how it's gonna happen. We're gonna make that happen.
Heck, most of the heroes do have a pet. I'm pretty sure, like, Green Arrow had a pet wolf for a little bit. So there you go. We got the Arrow Wolf the Super Dog.
Did he pick that up in that issue where he had to go stop that drug bust on the mountain of Seattle or wherever
Basically,
it was?
Yeah, he just picked them up somewhere.
He just saved it. He's like, oh, you look friendly. Stop chewing my arm off.
You want to come live with me in Seattle, now Star City?
Exactly. The only thing for me about this issue, because overall I thought this was a perfect ending to this arc. Not a great place if you haven't been reading this, by the way, to jump on. This is not the place, but it is if you're just looking for a really sweet story about Superman that actually has a lot of action, a lot of like incredibly well done storytelling and great characters. I'd say go back and pick this whole thing up.
Definitely.
I think it's just worth it.
It's going to be a winner when it's all collected.
I agree. Now, I will say, though, my biggest complaint in this issue was all of the art changes.
Yeah, there was a lot of them, and it didn't look nearly as nice as the issue that preceded it, which is a shame because it's a wicked cover.
Yeah, it really is. It's a great cover, and there are a lot of fantastic moments in this, but the art, there's a lot of incredibly different styles in there from beginning to end, and by the end, you're like, whoa, what happened? And then I went back and I looked at the artist page, and I was like, that's a lot of artists. And
It
there's
is,
something
and I
wrong
mean,
with that, but like usually you do something like that for a very particular reason, and I didn't really feel that. I didn't feel that it was done for any
I
particular
agree.
reason other than to get the issue out.
It's the price you pay to get these books out on time. Yeah.
Yeah, right? I don't know. So there you go. Would you just overall, just real quick, like any last thoughts on that?
Probably my favorite part, bar none, is, when Superman and Superboy are fighting each other, and he's like, I always imagined how great it would feel when we finally took flight
Oh
together.
my god.
Now you're corrupted and evil, but here's the thing: now that I know your powers are awakening, I'm not gonna feel bad about
Right,
this.
right. For me, that was like kind of like, like really sad because
It was
like
tragic.
you can't go back from that. Like that's going to literally be the first time you flew together was when you were at odds from one another.
And the first time I smacked you across the face.
Yeah,
With a fist.
yeah. Yeah.
Superman does not condone child abuse, but in certain situations.
Is something's got to be done.
I imagine he's up there being like, man, I sure hope Child Protective Services aren't watching.
Exactly. All right, so there you go. Superman number 25. I think both of us have gushed enough about this issue. Again, like I said, not the best place if you haven't been reading it, but do go back, pick up the rest of this run, this little arc here. It's just really nice. Just a nice, really well put together beginning, middle, and end of a story for Superman. But for now, let's go right back over to Marvel and talk about Captain America: Steve Rogers, number 18.
Yes.
Joel, man, you're really pulling the weight on the tie-ins here.
I'm trying my best, and I'm picking and choosing is the thing. I figured anything written by Nick Spencer is important. Anything in the main Captain America family is important, and indeed it was. This issue, the timeline of these are kind of hard to keep straight. This is Captain America. Did you ever see Mr. Smith Goes to Washington?
Yeah.
This is Mr. Rogers Goes to the UN, is what this is. This is Hydra Cap going to meet the United Nations and really just kind of throw his weight and his muscle around. And all the other nations are like, this Hydra takeover, this is horrible, this is unconstitutional, we will tell him what we think, we will give him an earful. And then Captain America shows up with his posse and everything and says, you don't do anything. You're all limp-wristed, weak-ass politicians. You don't know real power the way I know real power. And here's the thing. You might hate me. You might despise me and what Hydra represents. But in your own country right now, Hydra splinter factions are sprouting up to support me in what I'm doing. Again, drawing from the real headlines. I don't think I need to spoil it out to you what they're saying here about the far right and everything else.
Right.
And in fact, I didn't read it, but I think they flash over to what's happening in USA Avengers, where the more international team of heroes is in France fighting a bunch of Hydra militants who have, come up and are trying to take over the country, which again, drawing from real life headlines, only in real life France actually won their battle, but hey, that's neither here nor there. It's a whole thing of just Captain America being like, I'm right, you're wrong. People were angry, you didn't listen to them, blah, blah, blah. All the classic talking points of a villain like this. But then the coolest fucking thing happens.
Okay, I'm in. So, what is it?
So this is the United Nations in the Marvel Universe, right? Which means all nations, even fictional nations, have a seat there. So it's at that point, everything goes silent, the screens get taken over, and Black Panther walks out and says, the representative from Wakanda has the floor.
Okay, I'm in.
And he takes over the whole thing, and he's like, Captain America, you can bully, you can bribe, you can threaten, but you will not threaten me. I will continue to fight for freedom of all people, and I ask the other nations of the world, do not kowtow to this fascist, to this madman. And you know why? I'm beating you right now. You sent 3 different forces to try and invade my country. I killed them all, and if you were any sort of man, Steve, you'd fight me outside right now.
He pulls a, let's take this outside.
How about that? He literally does cash me outside. How about that? And Cap has no reply.
So
he good. Yeah.
So hang on. Black Panther's whole way of defeating him is like, let's dance, you and me. We'll go outside and we'll settle this like men, taking his gloves off.
It's because he knows Steve won't fight him outside.
Well, yeah.
So he wins the hearts and minds that day and shows that, wow, Wakanda is super strong, that they're able to continue to repel all these different attacks, and we know Wakanda actually has a piece of the cosmic cube, so this is
Right.
going to be important for the bigger picture of it all. And then again, Namor keeps coming back into this. Namor sees all of this on TV, and he's like, wow, good on you, Black Panther. I wish I didn't surrender so quickly. You're kind of awesome, and I'm kind of lame.
Namor's like, yeah, dude, T'Challa, you're really making me look bad. Like, come on, man. Can't you just surrender a little bit? Just I don't know.
Just kowtow just a little bit. Yeah, like Namor like disappears in his chair, where it's like, oh, imagine what could have been if I just didn't surrender right out of the gate.
Right, if I had maybe tried anything.
But yeah, so seriously, Black Panther, in a character history that's been filled with so many amazing moments, this made the top 10 right here, where he's like, look, America's taken over, meet me behind the Taco Bell.
All right, to steal from Rob here for a second, T'Challa's the best thing coming out of Secret Empire right now.
Right now, yes. And it's funny. I don't think he has a tie-in. He doesn't have anything else, but he's really owning the small scenes that he's in.
It's amazing. All right, before we keep going with this conversation about how incredibly awesome T'Challa is in Steve Rogers' own book, Mr. Giggles, thank you so much for the super chat. He says Black Panther is straight savage. I also love
book he was.
Dude, you are so right about that. Thank you so much. I just love that T'Challa is like the takeaway character from the Captain America book.
Tie-in. I guess even Spencer's like, look, you know what? I've written Captain America for like a year and a half now. He's got the main book. Let's see other characters be cool.
That is amazing. I am blown away by that. There's like part of me that makes me even more excited for the Black Panther movie just because of that.
It was such a pleasant surprise. It was such a pleasant surprise, too, because I'm like, okay, Captain America, he's going to the UN, he's being a bully and a braggart and everything else. And, you know, this is yet another chance for Nick Spencer to talk about what he believes and what's going on in the real world, only to have, oh, shit, comics happened, everybody. The man who is also a king and a man in a Black Panther suit came out and said, I'm not taking your bullshit.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's also kind of funny, too, when I stop and think about it. It's like, wait, Black Panther, the ultimate defender of freedom, but isn't he a monarch? Yeah, but the Black Panther is also the ultimate public servant, so would you... Yeah, Black Panther.
Yeah.
Don't think too hard on it.
That's just... I love it. I love everything about that. Like, again, like, I have not been, like... Not that I'm not a huge fan of Cap. I like Cap as a character. I like stories in which he's, like, leading a team. I really do. I have never really been, like, one to jump into the solo book. But now I desperately lament
is the thing.
it. Like, just because of this, I'm just like, oh, I wish I was reading it.
Like, obviously, there are hardcore Captain America fans who read everything, but you can basically ignore his solo book for huge chunks of time when it's not like, you know, the Great Winter Soldier years, and it's not even like what it is right now. Every so often, though, a writer comes along and makes Captain America must read, and that's kind of the time period we're in right now.
Well, here's the thing. If at the end of the day, I'll be honest with you, if out of this, you know, look, things will change with Captain America. We will forever look at Cap differently no matter what happens. No matter what happens, we will always look at Cap differently from this. But we will always remember that time T'Challa, like, was a total badass? I mean, he usually is, but remember when he was, like, a super one? And, like threatened to, like, fist fight Cap on the playground of the UN?
I will fight you on the moon. I will fight you in front of everybody.
You, me, 4 p.m. in front of the jungle gym. It's on, Cap. I dare you.
Lace them up.
So, all right. Is this something, if people are reading Secret Empire, do they need to pick this up?
Again, as with the previous issue, I would say they are not necessary, but they are nice little, you know, expansions to the story. They answer a lot of logistical questions. In this case, it answers, well, why don't all the other nations of the world get involved in liberating America from Hydra? Well, because they're dealing with their own things right now, and also Captain America is flexing a lot of, like, political muscle, being like, oh, well, if you attack me, that's, you know, that's a sign of war, and, you know, and you're breaking this, and that convention. All
right, so there you go for the tie-in element to it. Just as a Captain America book, if you're not really, like, paying too much attention to the Secret Empire. How do you feel? Place to, like, okay, I kind of interested in what's going on with Cap. Is this the place? Or I'm like, okay, I'm grabbing this.
I mean,
let's see
it's
how
impossible,
I
I think, right now to care about Captain America and not also be caring about what's happening in Secret Empire. They are completely, they are tied at this point. God help you if you're like, well, I'm going to keep reading Captain America, but I'm not going to read the big event that this all spun out of, which, hey, a person like that might exist. I don't know.
Who knows? There's like someone out there. It's like, that's me.
That's me. It's like, look, I love what's going on here, but I won't read the big event. That
exactly. But I'm incredibly confused. All right.
That happens.
So there you go, guys. That was Captain America number 18. Seriously, like, if you're a T'Challa fan, you better read this book. I gotta tell you.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's really good.
All right, still staying in the Marvel corner, guys. A new number 1 from Marvel came out this week. And while normally of the weekly poll members, not necessarily the poll members, but of the weekly poll members, there is a gentleman who has some big opinions about Spider-Man. Joel and I are going to try to tackle this book. Of course, I'm talking about Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Adam Kubert. Let's just give first impressions of this book. This is a new number 1. We're just trying to get a little comfortable with this. How did you feel about it?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a light, breezy read. I thought it added a lot of fun and levity to Spider-Man that Amazing has been missing as of recently. It's also a really great jumping on point if you've never even read a Spider-Man comic before. In fact, the comic opens up with him regaling everyone with his origin, only for the Human Torch to be like, oh my god, we know your story. Would you shut up about it? You've gotten so lame since you got money. Right.
I felt like you said, like, this is the more humorous side to Spider-Man that I feel like we've been missing. It comes back to a lot of the heart, I think, of Spider-Man to some degree. I do feel like, as much as I like what Zdarsky is doing with the characters, it feels like Chip isn't totally comfortable with where Slott has left him. And so Peter comes off to me sometimes as a little bit more egotistical than he might normally be, but I think that's probably a result just of where he is in Slott's work, especially when they call Amazing Spider-Man the sibling book. Like, he recognizes he has to address what's going on there, and he is tethered to that continuity, but he's definitely writing a different personality Spider-Man over here.
Totally.
And art-wise, I love it. I really like Kubert's work. I think he does a great job. I just thought it was a really, like, good-looking book.
It's back to street level, too, is the other thing I like. This is a small adventure he's on, and Peter Parker is even like, man, owning my company and doing all this other stuff, I just need a breather, man. I just need to go beat up some muggers.
Yeah, that's really it. Slott. I've got Slott on the brain now. Zdarsky does a really good job, I think, of handling that origin story, like you mentioned, simply because of the fact that he's just like, literally, we have a movie coming out. So someone might want to pick this up, and I just want to make sure they know the origin story. But at the same time, I'm going to make fun of the fact that we always have to put an origin story in this.
Yep.
Like,
it's very tongue-in-cheek.
Very well done. Very, like, just, like, thinking. Just, he's really thinking about it. Like, he's really, like, putting his own, not only his spin on it, but, like, just, I think, part of himself into it.
Oh, absolutely. He did the same thing with his Star-Lord book, which was also very funny.
Right. Like I said, though, I don't know. How did you feel about Spidey's voice in this?
I mean, it's definitely Spider-Man by way of Zdarsky. I had just read his Star-Lord book not too long ago, and Star-Lord sounded very much the same.
Right. He does write a very good...
They're both named Pete.
He writes a great sarcastic character, which, look, Spider-Man for me typically is a little less sarcastic, a little more quippy, but I think we might get that. Like, this is kind of like he's getting a feel for it. He, like we said earlier, he is kind of tethered to what Slott is doing right now, so it's like he's doing his own thing, but he has to keep that in mind constantly, which is, like, gotta be, like, a dangerous and difficult line to walk.
Oh yeah, we get a new love interest this issue, Spider-Man love interest number 644. But I really like her because it's such a genius idea. She's a comedian who's just moved to New York, and I'm like, yeah, why has Spider-Man never dated a comedian before? He's dated a cop, he's dated a model, an actress, he's dated literally everybody else.
Oh yeah, no, it's true, and like I like their conversations. I like their dialogue. I love when she takes the card, her business card, just throw it at him.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
she's
I
just
thought you
like,
were sticky.
is not all the time. No, yeah, that's not how that works.
I loved her business card too. It was her name and jokes under
Yeah,
it.
exactly. We get Ant-Man in this.
Yes, who's quite funny. I enjoy Scott Lang. I enjoyed a lot of cameos we got in this issue. It's like Zdarsky's trying to say, no. Spider-Man still has friends. He's still very much a part of the superhero universe. He's not a weird shut-in in his tower.
Right? No, it's true. We do also meet just a new, well, for at least for me, new character. Like, I've never seen the brother of the Tinkerer.
Oh, Mason, yeah, I think he is new.
I think he's a brand new character.
He also looks like Andre the Giant. Did you notice that?
Yeah,
He's super
he
tall.
does.
He's got matted hair.
He really does. In a movie, we'd have to go back in time and get Andre the Giant to play him. But exactly. But I thought that was kind of an interesting idea, literally to take the Tinkerer, who has always been a thorn in Spider-Man's side, and be like, no, there's more to that family, playing with this idea of siblings, which we then will see played with again at the end of this issue. Again, kind of clever, a little bit of poetry there. But just to be like, look, if the villains have that, we can't always count on someone like Tony Stark or Reed Richards. They're both gone right now. You know what I mean? Like, there have to be other
Who's gonna
people.
fix our shit?
Exactly. And I adore that it's someone that even Tony Stark goes to. I was like, oh.
He's just that good. And I like Spider-Man has like a little bit of nerd territory problems. Just like, but I'm smart. Why don't people come to me for help? Only to have him fix his web shooters and then tell his own story about how he believes with great power comes great responsibility. And then he's like, okay, you're all right with me, Mason.
Right, exactly. And even just with Mason, just in general, like, he didn't even know about him. He didn't know about him at all. Like Ant-Man's like, yeah, don't you know? And he's like, no. And then he's trying to come up with all these reasons why, and it's just like, nah,
I think that's another thing, too, to try and show how alienated Spider-Man is from the rest of the superhero community with his company, and he hasn't been on the streets in a long time.
I could see that, too. I also wonder if, for Mason, Spider-Man reminds him of his brother.
Possibly. And that's that's a sore thumb for him.
Exactly. Before we kind of move on to that kind of last page, like, whoa, reveal, I do want to mention that there is a, like, it's not all sarcasm for Spider-Man. There are some quip or, like, just funny moments for me. Like, I think for me, the most Spider-Man kind of, like, humor moment from, like, I guess a more classic Spider-Man was when he uses his webs and creates a belt. And he says his fashion sense is tingling. I'm like, that is very much a, like, Spider-Man style joke. It's
Whackity schmackity.
Exactly. It's a terrible joke. And he's just like, he can't help himself, you know? I have always enjoyed the idea that Spider-Man quips because he's nervous.
Yeah.
He quips because he's unsure of himself. And if Zdarsky could recognize that, and the reason that he's not being like that right now is because he's so well off, you know, his life is really put together right now, that he's, like, pulled back on that. I would love to see, essentially, like, I don't want to see him fall, because it's such a sad thing to say, but, like, as things unravel for him, which inevitably things always happen like that for Peter Parker anyway.
They already are in the main Spider-Man
there
book.
You go.
Parker Industries is not long for this world. He's probably going to lose it by the end of Secret Empire.
Oh, okay, well, there you go. But for someone like Zdarsky, who kind of understands the humorous elements and the side to that, to then take him over to more of the quip, to take him more to doing that just because it's in his nature. I think that'd be great.
Definitely.
Do you want to talk about the last page reveal?
Sure. So, in a very unexpected twist, in the end, we see a character we have not seen in many years. Teresa, last name maybe Parker, maybe Dunbar, maybe something else. A former, maybe current CIA agent who claims to be, maybe is Peter Parker's sister.
Right? That, for me, that was kind of a deep dive.
That was a deep dive. That's one Mark Waid miniseries they did, Family Business.
Yes.
Where they implied that, oh, this woman might be your sister. Then it was sort of revealed she wasn't, but they grew really close anyway.
Yeah.
And now she's come back from the ether.
Right now, look, that could mean a lot of different things. That could mean that is literally a book Zdarsky read. That could mean that Zdarsky knows a lot about his continuity just in general. Like, he's just maybe a Spider-Man fan. Although I have heard, like, people say that Zdarsky has said that he's not a fan of Spider-Man.
Really?
Which is funny because right now he's writing Spider-Man where he's at the pinnacle of his being a jerk.
Yeah.
And he's doing a good job of writing that, and I'm hoping that if we pull away from that, he can, again, do that transition over to, like, look, Peter Parker was a jerk, but he's coming out of it now, and, like, he is going to go back to what the roots of Spider-Man were. But we'll
Definitely.
see. You know what I mean? Like, people's opinions change all the time. He could have said that years
course.
ago, for all I know. I don't actually know the quote. I've never actually heard him, like, seen that
Same.
before. So who knows? But for him to pull that out, that kind of gives him a little street cred, I think.
Definitely. I appreciate the idea of them growing the Spider-Man family to someone who's not a traditional hero, and also, hey, he has some family that's not Aunt May, and a woman in his book that he's not dating, which is also nice.
Right, right. Also, Aunt May has a very brief moment in this. Aunt May, of course, dealing with the death of her husband. But she tries to get Peter, like, she goes back to that kind of, like, traditional Aunt May. And, of course, I know for some, like, for most people, it's very sort of the topic of Peter and Mary Jane. But, like, think about when Peter, before he was ever married, when, like, he was dating people and stuff like that, Aunt May was always interested in what he was doing in that element of
She
his
tries to get
life.
him on the Tinder, which makes me laugh.
Exactly. She's the one that kind of sets him up with Mary Jane in the first place, and that's what she's kind of doing here. She's meddling in his life when she's lacking in her own, like, world. She goes right back to Peter's, regardless of how old he is.
I love the idea that it's Aunt May who brings up the idea of Tinder. I imagine, like, in an alternate thing, she's like, oh, I'm having great luck with the Tinder, swiping left all over the place.
We're like, that's more that I don't need to know that.
Look, Jay's been dead for a while now. He'd want me to live. I don't have much time left.
Yeah, so, overall, like, this was an interesting start. It definitely had a backup, too, which I don't know if is going to tie into more of where the book's going, if it's just a little B-plot that's going to be happening, if it's just, a little world building on Zdarsky's part. I don't know.
Yeah.
But overall, like, this felt like a just a fun, light Spider-Man story.
Totally. The world was not at stake, which I appreciated for once.
Right. It's funny. Like, this is, like, a step in the right direction. I don't know, personally, if we are 100% there for Spider-Man, necessarily, but I think this is going a good way.
Yeah, and because it is a Spider-Man book, it'll probably sell pretty well, which means Zdarsky will have time to get it to where he wants to go. It won't be canceled prematurely like his last couple books.
What I'm interested to see is Slot's reaction to people's opinions of this book.
Yeah, if they start liking it more, will he honor it or what?
Yeah, exactly. Because for Slot, Spider-Man's a very... It's so bizarre because he loves the character so much. He really does. He loves the character. He loves writing for the character. He knows the character.
Been doing it long enough.
Yeah. But I mean, like, even before that, before he was writing it, like, that was his dream job. Like, that's what he wanted. He wanted to write for Spider-Man. Like, he liked the cartoons and all the books. And it doesn't matter. He just loves it. And for him to be here, it's sad for him to be writing a book that nobody really enjoys. Not nobody. Not many enjoy.
But that we can admit is not as good as it was.
Exactly. And then for this book to come out, it's just, I never want to see anybody have a meltdown, and I really hope he doesn't have that. But I hope instead it's a learning lesson.
I hope so, too.
So, there you go, guys. That was our thoughts on Spectacular Spider-Man.
Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, which, goddamn, that's a mouthful of a title.
I know. We're just going to call it Spectacular Spider-Man.
I hate having to write it for my video, because I'm like, goddamn, that's a lot of words in one YouTube title.
It is.
Does anyone honor the? I don't say the Spectacular Spider-Man, nor do I say the Amazing Spider-Man.
No, I mean, every once in a while, but not usually. All right, so this is it, guys. We got 2 more books. One of them's going to be an indie book. The other one, that's right, you guessed it. It's Man-Thing number 5. I'm kidding.
Jeez, you had me going for a second. I'm like, hey, we didn't talk about this before we started.
Ha! My trap is sprung. No, of course, guys, we're talking about Batman number 25, The War of Jokes and Riddles, or as I coined on Off the Rack, Batman Wojar.
Wojar, I like it.
I'm sure other people have called it that. I like saying it out loud instead of just calling it the initials. It's Wojar. This is the first part of Wojar. Here we go.
War of Jokes and Riddles. It's such an awkward title to say.
It really is. It's very long. It's one of those long titles. Joel, tell me about Wojar.
Okay, I will tell you all about the Wojar. So this is a flashback story taking place not long after the events of Zero Year.
Mm-hmm.
The Joker is just starting to make a name for himself in Gotham City. He's going around committing all sorts of heinous crimes,
Oh, hang on,
targeting comedy clubs.
I don't want to do the thing. Is it after 0 Year or is it after year 1?
It is after 0 Year.
Okay.
Is after the I know that gets very confusing because we have a 0 Year into year 1 and all the old continuity's back in now. So I guess this is like year 0.5.
All right,
not
go ahead.
quite at 1 yet. So the Joker's committing all sorts of crazy crimes, targeting like joke shops and comedy clubs and things related to laughing. And that's because Joker can't laugh. This new Joker, he's out on the town for the first time and just nothing is funny to him.
Yeah, no, he's lost the will to laugh.
He's blown a funny fuse.
Yeah,
he just can't get it back.
That's
and
sad when that happens.
The cops can't make anything of these crimes. They're all random and chaotic, and so they go to Edward Nygma, the Riddler, who is of course the mastermind behind 0 Year. Batman had defeated him, and now he's locked up in not Arkham. I don't think Arkham's been established yet. Mm-hmm. And essentially they're using him like Hannibal Lecter, where it's like, well, we're fucking stumped criminal. Can you help us out with this?
Yeah, and that's exactly that's pretty much what they're doing with him, except that he's a little subtle.
just a little bit. Hello, detectives.
Yeah.
And he solves the puzzle like in an instant, and then he decides, I don't want to be in jail anymore, so he kills his guards and escapes. What's interesting about this, and I'm sure anyone who saw the book will agree with me, Riddler is swole in this. He is more jacked than I've ever seen him before. He has been hit the prison gym hard.
I assumed he was doing the Sarah Connor workout, like he pushes the bed up, he's doing the yeah. He's a big Terminator 2 fan.
He was also feeling pretty confident because he's doing that thing where he's walking around with like his shirt almost all the way open, thing like, hey, look.
Yeah.
Look at how physiquey I am.
You're like, thanks. And then at some point, I want you to keep going with this, but I do want to say that at one point he's got the bowler hat on and he's got the mutton chops. I was like,
yes.
You almost look like a leprechaun. I've never thought about it like that until just now.
Oh, Thor, Laura, riddle me this and riddle me that. Yeah, so, in that scene, too, he looked very like a Clockwork Orange, didn't he? All he needed was to have a cane and a cod piece and be like, where are my Droogles?
Yeah, exactly. Just a little bit. But get.
So yeah, Riddler breaks out of jail basically for the sole purpose of tracking down the Joker because he sees the pattern that no one could possibly see in all these crazy crimes. And he figures out that what the Joker is really doing is calling out Batman because much like himself, they're all wrapped up in Batman. They've got big weird boners for Batman. And he's like, oh, if only I could give him the puzzle he wouldn't solve, then I'd feel complete. And if only, he could give you that laugh you want so much. We are of a kind, you and I. Imagine if we joined forces, what we would complete. And Joker's like, nah, not having any of that. Which
is like, that is so in Joker's character. Mm-hmm. I get that. I totally get that. Yeah, I don't know if you know this. That's not my thing. That's never ended well for anyone. Now has it?
No. I like too that it's only at this point does Batman show up. Batman is a minor cliff note in this issue, which I guess he should be because it's the war of jokes and riddles, not the war of jokes and riddles and Batman.
Yeah. It's kind of like right now it just seems like Batman's gonna be doing damage control.
But once again, keeping with my theory that Tom King is secretly and stealthily taking the piss out of Batman, Batman shows up late he A, can't solve the crime, and B, shows up late to all the stuff going down, but still breaks through a window. Hey, what did I miss? Oh, everyone got away, huh?
He also makes the wrong call about whether or not Riddler's gonna live or not.
Yeah, he sure does. So much for world's greatest detective, trained as a kung fu surgeon, rocket scientist. Can't tell if a gunshot's fatal or not.
Right? I don't know.
It's just a flesh wound.
But we also, like, by the end of this, we get a little, I don't know.
Flash to the present.
Yeah, an indicator, potentially?
Yeah, we join Bruce and Selina clearly post-coitus.
Yes. Yes.
The fumes are still very much in the air, and he says, "Well, Selena, if we're gonna live together, you need to know the worst thing I ever did, which was back during the War of Jokes and Riddles." And I can only imagine Selena being like, "Wow, you're bad at pillow talk, man. I did not ask for any of this,
Yeah,
but okay, you started."
sure, okay, why not? By the way, I'm not reciprocating with my worst story, okay? I'm not gonna do
We need
that.
to kill 15 minutes before the pizza gets here, so sure, talk
Yeah,
away.
go for it. We also get a pretty epic splash page of the
It's really
actual
nice.
war itself, or whatever you want to call it.
What did you call it? Villain or Arkham Civil War?
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what this is. This is the Arkham Civil War. Like, hey, everybody team up and fight. Like, I'll take half the guys, you take the other half of the guys, and
Here's the thing too. So like Tom King has said this in interviews, and he says that this is kind of like the marching order for this book, where it's like, oh, the Joker and Riddler, what they really represent is chaos and order within the world of Batman's villains. And I'm like, I disagree, because your assertion is that a joke can only be chaotic and a riddle can only be, ordered and structured. I disagree. How many riddles have you heard where the answers are completely random and out of left field? And how many comedians do you know who have honed and laser focused their craft to make people laugh? I'm like, I think both are actually rather interchangeable when you break it down. And there have been large swaths of comic history where the Riddler has been very, fey and anarchaic and everything else.
Yep.
He's basically just been a color swap of the Joker.
Now, I do want to say something about this. So, Joker's thing, he can't laugh. He can't laugh. And Riddler's answer to that is, you have to kill Batman. That's what'll make you laugh, right? Cool, whatever. Riddler's thing is, I can't figure out how to get rid of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't figure it out, right?
And I can figure out everything.
I remember reading this and thinking to myself, but you did just figure it out. Isn't the answer just have Joker kill Batman?
I guess.
What do you need a team up for that? Oh, you figured it out. You solved the problem.
You can just sit this one out, man.
You're good. It's him. You give him money or whatever he needs, and then he goes and kills Batman. Yay! Which I know is like, sometimes the Joker wants that, sometimes he doesn't. But like, that's the answer.
You figured it out, man.
Yeah, you put like one unstoppable force against another unstoppable force, and you just see what happens. I don't know.
It is weird. It is. There's again, much like with most of Tom King's Batman work, I'm like, okay, I liked that. I disagree with this, and I didn't like that.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I do. I enjoy how he's writing some of his villains. I really liked the setup with Joker with the stage, and then like the reveal of that pile of bodies. I thought that was really well handled. Room. Yeah, like, but again, like, he does a really good job with those multi-panels like that, just, like, really emphasizing and, like, creating this, like, this air of, like, discomfort. Like, there's a lot of uncomfortable panels to look at here, definitely. But it for all the right reasons.
What did you think of the new design for early in his career Joker? He actually looks like a human being now with facial features and not like a fade demon that he's looked like in everything else.
For me, he looks a little more iconic. Like, he's closer to the iconic Joker.
He looks like a playing card now.
Yeah, a little bit more. I really liked it. I definitely, for me, I've always enjoyed the animated series version of the Joker. The first version, not the sharper one later on. And this kind of had elements to that. And so, like, of course, I was all about that. The Riddler, on the other hand, I've never seen a Riddler quite like this before. I'm not really sure what to think of his design right now.
Yeah, what's with Sexy Riddler? Why did they think we needed that?
Sexy Riddler! That's a Halloween costume now.
I'm sure it is. Let's Google that right now.
Nope.
Safe search was off.
Oh no! What did you think of the art in this, by the way?
I mean, it definitely had its moments. It's funny. Gordon even mentions this, that we're seeing a lot of Gotham in the daytime, which we never really see.
Yeah, we really
which almost makes it more unsettling to see Gotham in the daytime.
Right. Which that was an element to it that I kind of enjoyed, was that King thought about that. Like, there's a lot of just elements to this that fit with one another. Like, okay, the Joker can't laugh, right? And the Riddler can't solve a problem. And Gotham, which is typically a dark, brooding, kind of unhappy place, is bright and pleasant right now.
In the middle of a heat wave. I like Gordon says it's always something. If it's not rain, it's a snowstorm. If it's not that, it's a heat wave. It's always friggin' something in Gotham.
Right, but no, it's like 70 and sunny and not a cloud in the sky, and presumably it'll be like this until this is over. So, I don't know, like, we might get some killer, like, art panels of, you know, it being, like, it raining, and, you know what I mean, at the end of this, you know, to essentially symbolize that it is over, which is very, Killing Joke.
Yeah.
Maybe, if they
maybe that's
to do
why
that.
Batman can't get involved. He's like, no, it's too nice outside.
Yeah, I gotta go play tennis or golf. That's what rich people do.
It's true. I gotta go to the social club because I'm a rich guy.
I'm gonna play polo.
I don't even know what polo is, Alfred. Tell me all about it.
He's like, you're gonna play cricket.
That's the one where I hit the horses, right? No, you ride the horses.
You know, there's literally no sport where you hit the horses. I just want to put that out there. There's no sport where you do that, okay?
Batman's just punching horses like it was Conan. It's like, I thought you were supposed to.
Is that not what we do here? I thought it was a villain. I have so many animal-themed villain, I assumed it was a villain.
Dr. Horse, I knew you'd come.
We meet again!
Dr. Horse is just a heroin dealer.
Right? We're like, this, all right, Batman, you could deal with that. That sounds cool.
Nay, Batman, you will not defeat me this day.
Get out of the stream, Joel.
Get out.
You have to go. I
You have dishonored this dojo.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks for coming.
Give me your badge and your gun, Joel.
Yeah, you're out of here.
You're a renegade cop.
You're a renegade commenter. How'd you feel about this?
It was okay. I thought it was an interesting enough setup. I think King actually does his strongest work near the tail end of his stuff.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the opposite of Scott Snyder, who's like, I nail you in. I do a lot of great stuff. My best work might be the penultimate issue, and then my final issue, it's an end. It's funny how they kind of have that sort of thing.
Exactly. I enjoy this a little bit more than I thought I would, but probably just because there's a little more focus on the villains. I always found this to be very interesting, so I am kind of looking forward to seeing King writing for some of these villains who have gotten not as much spotlight in his run. So
it's neat is what I'd say. It's a neat start.
It is a neat start. It's funny too because it's like, it'll make some kind of impact, but it can't make that much of an impact because it's a story in the past.
A prequel. That's my biggest problem. How do you build drama for a prequel when you know full well all the important players live till the end? Right.
No, it's true. But we'll see. And I am interested to see, can he do that? I don't know. We'll have to find out. But I don't know. Overall, I'm kind of interested. If you have been reading Batman, I'd say pick this up. I feel like if you haven't been, and you weren't sure if you want to get involved with Tom King's Batman, this is an interesting place to start. I have to tell you. It is, actually.
Because you really don't need to know anything that came before.
No, you really don't. The only thing you need to know is that Batman proposed to Selina in the last issue. But other than that, this is just a very interesting place to start your Batman journey if you haven't been there. It's a sequel
to Zero Year, and you don't even have to have read Zero Year.
Yeah. I don't know. It's funny. All right, guys.
Also, catch the fever because we're gonna have it for the rest of the summer.
Right?
So.
Yeah. You better get on board right now.
Is it gonna have tie-ins and special issues too? Did I read that, or am I just imagining things now?
I don't know.
I think it might have special one-shots focusing on the villains and their war. I could be wrong. I don't know.
All right. Well, we'll see about that.
But
before we go, I do want to just mention an indie book that just finished. Essentially, it was I don't want to call it a mini series. It's just a story. It's a story. It was 6 issues. It's God Country from Image. Since this book came out, I have been go read it now. It's literally one of my favorite comics of 2017. That is the top of the list right now. Loved this book. Donny Cates, incredible writer. I really
getting a lot of work and recognition off the back of this now.
Right. I gotta tell you, I picked this book up just because I was like, that sounds like a kind of funny story, and I was a little bit interested. Grandpa from Texas with Alzheimer's ends up picking up a sword that is the god of swords, and it cures his Alzheimer's, but gods want the sword back, essentially, and how's that gonna go? And I have not been disappointed at all in this book. At all. And the end, I don't want to go over the ending because like there's an emotional crux to it. And I feel like if you're reading it, I'm not ruining anything for you. I will just tell you that this book ends up having an incredible fight between our protagonist Emmett with his god sword Valifax, and essentially the father of many of the gods that we've seen throughout of this, who desperately wants that sword back. The fight is incredible. It ends up being like a story of father and sons, a story of families in general. We find out who the narrator of the story is, and it turns out it's actually like there's the Emmett's granddaughter's like grandchild. Like, it's a story that's been told through the Quinlan generations. Just such a nice story, incredibly epic, action-packed. Don't think that just because it has a heartfelt journey, it can't have action. There's some incredible fights in this. Emmett is he's kind of a bastard of a character, but like his heart's in the right place in a weird way. He just goes about everything kind of the wrong way. But in my opinion, he's 100% redeemed by the end of this issue. If you're looking for just something it's like a one and done, the 6 issues, they're a great read. The trade will come out pretty soon from Image. It's usually pretty affordable. So if you're just looking for something a little bit different, just a cool story, go grab that. That's it. That's it for me. That's all I can tell you about that.
That's some high praise, and I think that's an early up-and-coming runner for our unnamed The Pull end-of-year comic book award show that we're going to be kicking around the ideas for.
We're working shop in that one. We'll totally get it there. I do want to address, though, that I think Daredevil is on Joel's poll list, but Joel really likes Daredevil, and he likes to take his time with it. Right?
I do.
He likes to pop open a little wine, light some candles,
set some mood light. It's like, yes, what's Matt doing this week?
Exactly.
Same with Green Arrow too.
Yeah.
I love them, but I don't read them right away because they don't get the same hits as Spider-Man and Batman do, and I need to get those videos out.
But he does love them, so unfortunately, no, we will not be talking about Daredevil this week. But if you want to see more of that, you're welcome to let us know in the comments down below. What books you liked from this week, and B, what are some things you want to see more on the poll? That's kind of cool. And also, those of us who joined us today on the very first stream of the poll on the Weekly Poll YouTube channel, thank you so much for being here. We really hope you enjoyed this.
Much
we
love.
really hope that you come back every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for the poll, where we'll be talking about the comic books that came out essentially the day before, and just, having a good time, having fun. And then the weekly poll will still be over on the Twitch channel for the time being, but if anything ever changes with that, we will let you know, and that's every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time if you want to hang out and talk about instead not just comic books, but comic book news, pop culture news, just cool things that are going on, some not so cool things, but just having crazy conversations with crazy rants and tangents. That's where you want to go there. But before we go, if you're here right now in the live chat and you want to hang out with us outside of our streams, you can go over to the Discord. The mods will put that link in there. We would love to try to put the link into the actual descriptions of these episodes. Unfortunately, Discord links deteriorate within 24 hours.
Really?
So if someone's not keeping up with it, it's kind of useless. We're trying to figure out a better way to do that.
God,
but
they age like fruit.
They do. They just don't last. Wow, we got really lousy fruit. 24 hours, man.
I only have the ripest, finest fruit flown in from the Ozarks.
That's exactly it. And again, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Don't forget, if you want to see more of Joel, you can go over to Twitter, at Cape Joel. He's over there. He'll tell you all the stuff that's going on. If you want to hang out with me a little bit more, over on Twitter at TheRealZoobs. And actually, this week I'm going to be at ToyCon in New Jersey, just hanging around, walking around, having a good time. That's over in Parsippany, New Jersey. I don't know. I just want to let you guys know that because it's fun and it's totally different. So yeah. Apparently we can set the link to never expire, according to someone in the chat. We'll see if we can't figure that out, mods. That's up to you. Let me know about that. But thanks again, guys, so much for hanging out, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.